Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Heartland Farm. We're a few minutes late today. I'm sorry, we went to work and I didn't get organized this morning here like I had hoped to. This week we're going to do something a little different like we've done a couple of other times. This should appeal especially to the international harvester collectors out there and enthusiasts, of which I am one. And the first thing I want to send out is our condolences to the family of Stu Paquette, who owned the big Paquette's Farm All Museum down in Leesburg, Florida. He passed a week ago yesterday, and it's a terrible loss to the international harvester community. He was a great collector and a great promoter and protector of IH history. So our deepest condolences to the family of Stuart Paquette of Leesburg, Florida. So today we're going to talk about something a little bit different. Maybe some of you don't know this, but International Harvester was in the refrigeration business. They bought a factory in Evansville, Indiana that had been owned by Republic Aviation. Republic Aviation built the P-47 Thunderbolt in that facility in Evansville, and at the conclusion of World War II, there was no need for that factory anymore, so they put it up for sale. And International bought it with the intention of expanding farm machinery production there and also going into the refrigeration business. So there we have a little first gear R110 pickup with a little die-cast International Harvester chest freezer. You might be able to see the logo on there if Dan gets in close enough with the camera. They called them a deep freeze, and the old timers will remember them being called that. Those were built in Evansville starting around 1949. Over here we have a little spec cast 55 Chevrolet pickup truck with an International Harvester refrigerator. It seems funny that International would get in a business like that. But if you look at, there were still a lot of people that did not have refrigeration in their homes, or they had the old compressor top GE refrigerators and things like that. Some people still had ice boxes. So as the boys came home from World War II and they were modernizing America, you had the Rural Electrification Act going on. You had power going into homes that didn't normally have it. International Harvester had that new facility to build refrigerators, deep freezes, window air conditioners, and dehumidifiers. In my collection of memorabilia, we have the little time payment chart because a lot of people didn't have the $200 or $300 to buy a new refrigerator. So here was the finance calculator for the salesman to figure out how much the farm wife might have to be working out of the grocery budget to pay for that new refrigerator. International had a big marketing approach into the refrigeration business. They had to have a home economics expert, someone to really appeal to the ladies of rural America, because primarily these refrigerators were sold in small towns. You won't find too many of them in Manhattan, although in the TV show Friends, if you zero in on the refrigerator, it is an International Harvester refrigerator, which is kind of an anomaly. They had this home economist, and her name was Irma Harding. So there's Irma Harding right there. Here's some advertising cheese and cracker plates that we sell at the dealership that we happen to find. Irma Harding was the spokeswoman for International Harvester Refrigeration. Here's a little bit more of Irma right there. They had her appearing at state fairs and other places, trade shows and whatnot. You see with the chest freezer right there, standing in front of the refrigerator. She has a whole signature line of housewares that International sold. They had freezer boxes. It was to teach people to can their goods, and I'm sorry, instead of canning, freeze their goods. So there were wax-lined boxes, of which I happen to have several of, but darn things have eluded me today because I wanted to show them to you, and they have good old Irma's picture on them. I have an interesting story. I have a very dear friend who was an International Harvester dealer in Salem, New York, but he started out at Fort Ann Sales up in Fort Ann, New York, and it was a IH prototype style building with a center pylon. The building still stands today. Matter of fact, when do you want to grab it? Want to grab it and bring it in here? Tim Jr. made me one out of Legos for my birthday a number of years ago. I intended to have that in here to show you. So anyways, my dear friend Paul Tomlinson and the man that he worked with, Harold Gould, both wonderful IH men. Harold's no longer with us, but Paul is, and I'm hoping he's watching. One day a lady came in from Castleton, Vermont. She bought herself an International deep freeze. And so they were going to deliver it to her, and they put it on the back of the flatbed delivery truck. It was a cold winter night. They're on their way up Old Route 4, and they went around a corner, and they didn't have it secured as well on the frozen flatbed as maybe they should have. And that rascal slid right off and right down over a bank, and it went upside down. It slid down to the bottom of a ravine on this crusty snow. Well, they were mortified. They stopped. And, oh, my God, how did that happen? They climbed down into the ditch and they got their deep freeze and they tipped it back up on the shiny side so it'd push easier, and they pushed it like a sled up the hill and got it back on the flatbed, tied it down, got to the nearest street light, took their uniform coat and wiped it off. It looked like it was pretty well unscathed. And they got to the woman's house and they brought it in the house and they set it up, plugged it in. I'm sure both of them said a little prayer and hoped that it would start up when they plugged it in. And indeed, they plugged it in, it started right up, and the compressor was fine. Everything was just dandy. So anyways, fun little story right there, and always going to have a laugh about that Paul shared that one with me a number of years ago. Here, just for a little nostalgia's sake, is a Lego model of Fort Anne Sales, Route 4, Fort Anne, New York. And this is a little wooden mock-up of the International Harvester Center pylon prototype buildings. They were supposed to be the dealership of the future after World War II. They went around and sold all the rural dealers and setting up that way. So I just thought I'd share that with you. Share the refrigeration trucks, the payment chart, a little history on Irma Harding. Also, at the factory in Evansville, they built International Harvester can coolers and can milkers. And this is under the McCormick Gearing brand, an International Harvester stainless steel milker pail with its original shipping box being shipped out of the International Harvester branch from Lincoln, Nebraska to whoever the dealer was that purchased it. Kind of a neat piece of history. This came out of the Farmall Land Museum out in Avoca, Iowa that I visited in the year 2020. We've got International Harvester refrigerators over here I wanted to share with you. We also have an International Harvester insulated refrigerator blanket. It's the only one I've ever seen. I saw it at Farmall Land, and I said to my friend Scott that I was traveling with, I'm going to own that when they auction this stuff off, and we do. She's got kind of a mildewy smell, but this insulated blanket was designed to save the contents of the refrigerator until the refrigerator repairman could get there with the right parts and put it back together. I don't think you'll see something like that anymore. We have 4 IH refrigerators here, all of different designs, all pretty nice shape. Oh, I got that one too close together. Daniel, come right around here. Take a little peek in there. That was your freezer compartment in the day because frozen foods were just coming into vogue. And if you had a lot of frozen foods, you had the deep freeze. So there's one of them. That's one style. This is the little compact style, which we just put the blanket over. This is the foot opening one. So if you had your hands full, you stepped down on the pedal and popped her right open. And this one over here is probably the most common one. These were built between 1951 and 1955, all 4 of these models. And every one of them, when we've gotten them home here to Heartland Farm, you plug them in and the compressor comes on and the light comes on when you open the door. Try buying one at Lowe's that's going to last that amount of time. I'm talking 70 years of refrigeration on these things. Of course, it takes 3 men and a mule to move one. They're seriously built. Owner's manuals for some that we've got as well have come with the foot pedal opening refrigerator. Kind of a neat piece of memorabilia right there. Once again, I ask you to share our videos if you would, and if you don't get a chance to watch them right away, you can watch it on YouTube, Tractor Tim and the Toys. We invite you to share them, please. Once again, when you share them, we throw your name in the hat, and almost at the conclusion of today's video, we'll draw the name for who won for sharing out of the people that shared it last week. One of the most interesting things that came out of the International Harvester plant in Evansville, Indiana, is about as far from anybody's mind as you'd ever imagine. And it is the M1 Garand rifle. We have one right here. It's a 1953 vintage M1 Garand. We own 3 of them in our collection. And you wonder, how did International end up building rifles? It's an interesting story in itself. At the conclusion of World War II, which incidentally, General Patton said that the M1 Garand was the most useful battle implement ever invented. And at the conclusion of World War II, it was felt that there were enough of them saved and enough of them in storage that they would never need to make any more. And if you remember last week, we talked about the Cold War, and as soon as the nuclear threat started to ramp up and there got to be hostilities on the Korean Peninsula, the government of the United States got a little nervous and said, we better reintroduce the M1 Garand and have some more made. But they were very concerned because of the nuclear threat. All firearms were made in New England. Pretty much all the M1 Garands were made within 60 miles of Springfield, Mass. At the Springfield Armory, there were some jobbed out to all their smaller firearms manufacturers in New England. And one bomb would have wiped them all out. So they asked other manufacturers further away to throw their hat in the ring to manufacture M1 Garands. And International Harvester threw their name in the hat because the factory in Evansville was 800 air miles from the nearest place they were made in New England. And so they ended up manufacturing them. They had a lot of difficulty getting their line up. They had to have a lot of help from Springfield Armory keeping up with their production contract for the United States government. But in the end, they built 337,000 M1 Garands at the International Harvester plant in Evansville out of the 5.4 million of them that were made. Now, an interesting story about the M1 Garand is that when you shoot the last shot, the clip ejects and makes a tin sound, and the enemy knew that your man was out of bullets. And it cost some American lives over in Europe when that happened. So after that happened, they wised up. And to draw the enemy out from wherever they were hiding to try to snipe our boys, the guys used to carry an empty clip because it made this distinctive tin sound. And they'd pitch the clip, and when it made the sound, the Germans would come out and pow, that was that. I probably don't want to say any more about that on Facebook or I'll be back in the pokey. So, which happens to me because I get to be a bit opinionated. So I'm going to draw the winner of last week. Dave, come on up here. We got a stand-in cameraman this week. We just get that guy. I'll lose that one. Stand-in cameraman this week. Daniel, thank you for that. Dave wanted a little limelight this week. Go ahead, Dave. Don't be shy.
Cindy Roberts.
Cindy Roberts. It couldn't be more appropriate for someone to win than Cindy Roberts. I must tell you, Cindy Roberts and her husband Bob, they're gold star parents. They lost a daughter who served this country. So, Cindy, you're going to win this week. Actually, what we're giving out for this week is going to be an Irma Harding serving tray. So you're local. You come on down to the shop. We'll be proud to present you with that. And we thank you for your support of our military and certainly the sacrifice that your family endured. So as we move forward into the new week, next week, the toy and the real McCoy is going to be coming to you from the Mecum Spring Classic Auction in East Moline, Illinois. I'm taking a couple of toys from here. I'm going to match them up with the real McCoy that they're going to be selling at the auction. And we'll be dropping that at 3 o'clock next Sunday, hopefully more on time than we were today for your enjoyment. And I've already picked out what it is that we're taking out. It'll be a good show. And yes, next week it's going to be about tractors. And it's going to be a couple of good ones. So we'll enjoy that. So without any further ado, I wish you the very best this week. God bless you all. I believe that it's 5 o'clock somewhere. So what do you think?
Yeah.
Time for a cold one. You can. All right.
Oh, hey, Jimmy.
Oh, thanks, buddy.
Yeah, sure thing. Hey, Ryan.
How we doing?
Which one?
Oh, I'll take a buddy.
Budweiser? There you go. Hey, Scott.
Hey, I want you a beer.
I got an IPA for you.
Is it cold? That's beautiful.
Real cold.
Wow.
Yep. Oh, hey, Dave.
Hey,
How's it?
good to see you. Thanks for the beer.
Sir, I was covered.
Canner bottle. You asked over canner bottle.
Very much.
Oh, you want a bottle?
Yes, Lord.
All right. Wilbur.
It's cold. It's wet.
Got a Michelob Ultra. I got Budweiser. We got IPA.
Boy, that ice refrigerator keeps them cold.
Like this, I'm like
Out there for you.
Folks, have a great week. And I'll tell you something, nothing keeps a beer cold like an IH refrigerator. And for all you purists out there, there's a gallon of Bat and Kill milk in there too, just so you know. Thanks a lot. God bless you and have a great week.
Brain freeze.